Asia is a vast, diverse and heterogeneous region which accounts for 20% of the world's land area. It is home to half of the world's population. Its 49 economies are at widely different levels of economic development, embrace different economic philosophies, and have different political systems. Today, Asia accounts for 27% of global output. Asia's economies fall into three broad groups. First, 7 high-income developed economies. Second, 11 that have been growing fast and converging with global best practice. They have achieved or are close to achieving middle-income status. And third, a large group of countries that has been growing slowly, has not been converging with global best practice, and yet aspires to join the second group. Asia today is on the cusp of an historic transformation. If the region's successful economies can sustain their growth momentum, Asia could grow to over half of the global economy by 2050. Per capita incomes in the region could multiply nearly 6-fold, making it an affluent region. Some 3 billion more Asians will enjoy the living standards of Europe today. There will be no poor country in the region. This prospect has given rise to the term the Asian Century. This will bring Asia's share of global output closer to the 60% that it enjoyed before the Industrial Revolution. Asia's growth would be driven by PRC, India, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, and Thailand, the Asia 7. Today, these 7 economies represent over 85% of Asia's output and would account for over 85% of Asia's incremental GDP between 2010 and 2050. This will be a truly historic transformation, but it is by no means preordained. History tells us that Asia's growth will not follow a linear path. There will be crises. Asia will have to manage them while maintaining its focus on the longer term. There are also a number of mega challenges. For one, large and in many cases, rising inequities within countries could undermine social cohesion and even lead to unrest. Second, these inequities combined with other structural deficiencies, weak institutions, and complacency can drive the countries into the middle-income trap, where countries stagnate at middle-income levels. Third, disparities across neighboring countries, if they continue to rise, could pose considerable risks to the region's peace and stability. Fourth, Asia's rapid growth and the anticipated rise in the living standards of some 3 billion additional Asians will create intense global competition for the Earth's finite natural resources. Fifth, climate change and related severe water crises could threaten agricultural production and affect billions of Asians. Rising sea levels would severely affect low-lying coastal areas and river basins, such as in Bangladesh and Vietnam. Increased incidence of natural disasters would cause widespread human misery and economic loss. Cutting across all of these other challenges is the recent deterioration in governance and the quality and credibility of political and economic institutions in many countries. These challenges transcend generations. They could even lead to national and regional conflicts that would derail Asia's growth and rob future generations of potential affluence. Meeting these challenges will require action by individual countries at the national level, collective action by the countries working together as a region, as well as a more proactive and constructive role at the global level. Actions required at the national level comprise a demanding, multifaceted, multi-generational agenda. First, almost all Asian countries must give much greater priority to inclusion and elimination of inequities throughout their societies. This will require significant investment in education and learning and universal provision of quality infrastructure and financial services. Second, managing massive urbanization. Between now and 2050, Asia's urban population will more than double, a staggering increase of 1.6 billion people. Asia's mega and secondary cities will account for over 80% of economic output. Asia must adopt a dramatically different vision and strategy for urbanization. More compact, energy efficient, safe and livable cities. Third, to preserve its own economic interest and secure long-term competitiveness, Asia has to take global leadership in using all resources much more efficiently and in the low-carbon race. The region's economies must develop and implement radical energy efficiency and diversification programs based on a combination of higher consumer prices, technological breakthroughs, and changes in consumption patterns. Fourth, to keep its growth momentum, the region needs to harness the full potential of entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology. Japan, Korea, and Singapore, and in recent years, PRC and India have begun to pioneer innovation and technological breakthroughs. Innovation to meet the needs and rising expectations of millions of people at the bottom of the pyramid should be a priority. Fifth, as Asia's share of global GDP rises to more than 50%, it should also have a similar share of global financial markets. Well before 2050, Asia should have one or more global financial centers and globally competitive financial institutions. This means greater emphasis on local equity and bond markets. In parallel, inclusive finance will be a pillar of the inclusive growth agenda. Sixth, transforming institutions and improving governance to reverse the recent deterioration will be fundamental. Transparency and accountability will be a prerequisite for becoming developed economies. Eradication of corruption is a daunting challenge, but critical to ensure social and political stability and retain the legitimacy of governments. Finally, as more countries approach high income status, they will need to move beyond economic policies aimed mainly at achieving high economic growth towards policies that promote quality of life, social harmony, personal safety and happiness. Regional cooperation is critical to tackle regional disparities and cross-country inequities. The creation of explicit development assistance programs would be a concrete demonstration of the willingness of the more successful Asian economies to help their less well-off neighbors. It is essential to effectively address connectivity and other regional public goods such as maritime security, disaster preparedness, disease control, and social issues like human trafficking and drugs. Asia will need to develop its own unique model of regional cooperation that builds on the past positive experience in East Asia. The Asian model must remain anchored in open regionalism that has served Asia so well in the past. Effective regional cooperation is a significant challenge. It will require strong political support, shared political ownership, mutual trust and collaboration among the big three: PRC, India, and Japan. Asia's growth and larger footprint in the global economy will bring with it new challenges, responsibilities, and obligations. Asia should play a more proactive role in global governance commensurate with its weight in the global economy. The region will have the most at stake in the global commons and must become the leading advocate of an open global trading system, a stable global financial system, and importantly, peace and security. Immediate and aggressive action on climate change by the large Asian economies is a must to minimize the risk of a dangerous increase in temperature and rise in sea level. Such action is in Asia's self-interest. It would also be an early demonstration to the world community that Asia is both willing and able to play a constructive role on the global commons. Asia must manage its rapid rise in a responsible and harmonious way. Over time, the leading regional economies must become thought leaders and active participants in the debates on global commons. Shortfalls in delivering on the agenda, such as the emerging economies becoming mired in the middle-income trap, will deprive billions of Asians of the benefits that would accrue from realizing the Asian century. Asia's output in 2050 would reach less than half of its potential. Asia's share of the global economy would remain at 32% versus 51%. GDP per capita would be cut by about half. Most importantly, billions of Asians will have to wait another generation or more to benefit from the promise of the Asian century. Which of the two scenarios becomes reality will depend on Asia's ability to maintain focus on the long term, vision, policies, and institution building. Asia's future is in its own hands.